Hi, this is Heather from the Rebuilding Faith online community. I joined the community because I was drawn to a space where I could continue to grow in my faith, but in a different way. I felt like I no longer belonged in my church home because I didn't adhere to the typical beliefs I had been raised with. I no longer could sit in the pew at my church while knowing my gay son was not accepted by the Christians with whom I worshiped. The best part about my experience in the community has been feeling that I'm not alone in my faith rebuilding journey. I'm learning so much through amazing podcasts, blogs, book studies, and lessons. I love the community and the content and comments shared. I'm thankful.
Welcome to another episode of Cabernet and Pray, where we sip the wine and we stir the faith. And today we've got an incredible guest. We've got David Hayward. You may not recognize that name, but he's better known as the Naked Pastor, and we get into why he's referred as that. He lives in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. So we're going to across the border for this episode with his wife, Lisa. They have 3 grown children. He has a background in theology and years of experience in ministry, but David now focuses on writing, art, and storytelling. Through his cartoons, his art, his books, and his teaching, he inspires curiosity, kindness, and community. He believes in the power of stories to encourage young readers to think for themselves, embrace their uniqueness, and treat others with love and respect. His work is filled with warmth, humor, and a deep appreciation for the wonder of life. And the thing that you'll notice in this episode is that if you have taken any step forward into reimagining your faith, into moving beyond what was given to you, even if you don't consider it deconstruction, if you just say, hey, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to move beyond, what I was handed. David is a model of someone who has lived this, who has done it. And I love the transparency in this conversation. I love the honesty, the vulnerability that he shares this. And especially at the end, we get into some very personal aspects of what this journey looks like for both of us. And so I hope this is an encouragement to you wherever you're at in your own journey with God as well. This is episode 61, The Root and the Fruit.
I've never shared this with anybody publicly.
If this was Sports Center, that would be like such a hot take. Skip Bayless would have no idea. Stephen A. Smith would have no idea what to say if you drop that down. That is so good.
The joke I always say is like, how'd you learn so much? You got to drink a lot.
The power of food and beverage to lubricate an environment.
Resistance to change is hurting the church.
I'm not in the camp that God has a penis or a vagina or a body at all. I'm in the camp that God is a universal spirit.
This is the strangest podcast that I have been on. I don't even know what to do.
I'm kind of geeked up about this wine.
So this is my second glass, and it delivers a little more of a punch than I expected. So if I get a little loopy, it's your fault. You told me to drink on this show.
I will also say as a confession, I am a lightweight. So I've had like 3 sips of this wine and I'm already feeling it. So this is fun.
You've uncovered the mystery. You've exposed the formula.
You've just duct taped together a number of things that aren't normally hanging out together, and I'm here for it.
We're going to sit down at a table. We're going to have a glass of wine and some food, and we're going to talk about the beauty of Jesus.
Thanks for what you're doing with this podcast and for the creative way you're doing it and the beautiful, positive spirit in which you're doing it.
I really appreciate this venue, what you're doing. It is fun, and yet you dig into the deep stuff.
I've heard about your podcast for a long time, and I love that you're a pastor and that you explore the world of faith through wine. That's very unique.
I never thought of church history in terms of wine drinkers. I love this question. Really got my mind rolling.
You had me with herbaceous notes, I want you to know. I'm ready to just stay here and live in the wine tour.
I will never forget the first time I bought a bottle of wine by myself, which was yesterday.
If you're familiar with drunk history, I thought it's like drunk theology. So I
got a little spicy there. It's the peach wine.
Apparently the wine is, here we are. Queer we are. Beer we are. No, it's wine, Jeremy.
By the way, drinking this Pinot Grigio at 3 o'clock in the afternoon is making me even more direct in my communication than I normally would be.
I know why you have your guests drink wine. It makes sense now. Yeah.
I get it. A little bit of liquid courage to really unleash the beast.
I think you've got a good podcast. Throw in the wine bit in there. That's nice, doesn't it? Cabernet and Pray, yeah.
Well, I am here today with the Naked Pastor. And for those of you who are only listening to this on audio, yes, he is wearing clothes. You need not be afraid. But I want to welcome to the podcast David Hayward.
Hey, thank you. Good to be here, Jeremy. And hello, everyone.
We're going to have fun today. I'm looking forward to this one and have been following David's work for a while. And so I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but
me neither.
It's going to be fun. And we're going to drink wine while we do it, David. So that's going to make it way better.
Yes,
I'll explain what I'm drinking and we'll see what you've got in your glass. Today, I've got a fun mix. This is called Red Schooner Voyage 12. So this is a Malbec from Argentina made in California, which is kind of a blending of two worlds. And Argentina, so it's actually, this would be considered an Argentinian Malbec because you always go where the grapes are, not where it's made. And Argentina creates a higher elevation with Malbec, so it's got more acidity, more of the tannins. I'm getting just beautiful notes on this. Blueberry, red plum, floral notes. It's an okay drinker because of our time differences between David and I. I'm pulling a 10 a.m. drink today. So this is my commitment to the craft, friends, and for you listening on this episode. So that's what I'm drinking. I'm enjoying it. David, what do you got in your glass?
You know what? I have an issue with that. Somebody says, oh, it's 5 p.m. somewhere. But, sometimes when we go out for breakfast or brunch or whatever to one of our favorite bars here, they have a nice brunch. I'll order an IPA and meanwhile, they might have ordered a breakfast Caesar or a mimosa and they think I'm weird because I ordered a beer. It's just, whatever.
It's very cultural. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Very cultural. So what I'm drinking, and you can't go wrong with a Malbec. You can't go wrong with a Malbec.
You're a Malbec fan.
That's my, I stand by that. You can't go wrong with a Malbec. It could be a $12 bottle. It could be a $40 bottle. It could be a $96 bottle. You can't go wrong with Malbec. Anyway, Excellent. This is what I'm drinking right now. It's called Cadeli Nero d'Avallo from Sicily. And it's...
That label is cool.
I have a friend who works in the liquor store here. All our liquor stores are government owned, right? So our liquor store, and he's a sommelier of sorts. And he recommended this. It's from Italy. And it's 14%, so it's higher alcohol. But it's dry, but it's got a little bit of jamminess to it, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't like it too sweet. But it's good. I'm enjoying it. And, because here in Canada, we can't get American wines right now, right? You know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I lean European anyway. My favorite region is France. Where they can produce really super dry, arid wines, and that's what I lean towards. But I tried this Italian one, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it, especially here at 1 p.m. So,
well, cheers to you, my friend, and cheers to those of you who are listening. I just met someone yesterday who says they listen to these episodes while he's riding his bike, so he's not drinking as he's listening to this. But shout out to you. And to all of you, if you are able to enjoy a great glass with us, it's even better. It enhances the experience. So,
sure does.
David, one of the questions I like to begin with so that our listeners get a frame of reference for you, a little bit of your journey, is if you were to look at the last 10 years of your life, so we'll narrow it down, last 10 years, how would you say your faith has changed in that window of time?
Wow, we're diving into the deep end.
We're starting right there, yeah.
I think that's my raison d'etre. My reason for being is my reason for living is change, is growing, and that's been to my benefit. Like I've always wanted to find places and spaces where they permitted me to grow, to become my most authentic self, because I think that's what growth is, becoming more aware of who you are and being that. And so that has been that's worked for me, but it's also made life difficult because when you decide to be yourself, there, you sometimes outgrow and make the community you're in uncomfortable, and so that's why my life has been, that kind of a growth journey, but it's meant a lot of heartbreak too along the way, because you gain friends, lose friends, and you gain support, you lose support, you gain affirmation, you lose affirmation. So that's been my journey in the last 10 years for me, because I left the ministry in 2010, so it's been actually 15 years since I left the church. I've and the ministry, and I haven't had any bosses. It's been kind of a breakneck speed over the last 15 years and 10 years, and I'm really enjoying myself, and I feel like I'm becoming more and more myself at a quicker rate. So yeah.
I love that, and I think that's the experience I hear from so many people. When you begin this journey, when you step out, when you take that leap into whatever the unknown is, you do feel like I'm becoming something really cool, and I like it, and it's happening quickly. But it comes with all of those, all of the loss, all of the pain, all of the transition of that journey. I'm curious. You're in this full-time artist space now from a very different traditional ministry role.
Yeah.
What was there a tipping point for you? Was it a gradual, like, hey, I got to get out of this, do something else? Or did something happen that you're like, this is it for me to be done with this?
Yeah, that's really my life story, that question. Because when I went and got my my BA in Bible and theology, and then I got my master's in Bible, New Testament, my goal was to become a New Testament scholar. I even started my PhD at the University of Toronto in New Testament studies. I had the years of Greek, years of Hebrew, theological French, theological German, Aramaic, even, like why? Wow. But like I my intent was to become a Bible scholar, and then things happened, life got in the way, and I ended up kind of by accident in the ministry. And I even remember on the eve of my ordination really struggling with the fact that I was entering the ministry, and I struggled with my calling the whole way. And I think part of the reason is because I knew what ministry could do to people. I've seen it. I know what church, religion, systems, organizations, ideology. I saw what it could do to people, and I was afraid it would do it to me. Plus, I wasn't just a pastor. There was so much other stuff going on in my life, like music and art and, all this stuff. And I couldn't figure out how to make it fit. So I've always drawn and painted, ever since I was a child. And so I continued that through my ministry. And it got to the point, I started my blog, nakedpastor.com, in 2005. And I was sharing my art on there and everything. And then I decided in 2006 to try cartoons. And then there was this kind of an overlap where my art sort of took over. and I became more known for my cartoons than for me. Like a lot more people have heard of Naked Pastor than have heard of David Hayward. But that's what happened. It was like, there wasn't really, it was like it tipped over on, in March of 2010, but it took a long time to get there. And so it was, by the time I left the ministry, it felt like a very natural progression into my new life of being a full-time artist.
Interesting. How did your church view you as an artist when you were in the traditional pastoral role?
Well, as a musician, they knew about it because I wrote worship songs and led worship and stuff like that. But in terms of visual art, no, I really flew under the radar as far as that's concerned. I mean, I was showing my paintings and stuff in galleries and making some money on the side through my art. But, when I started cartooning and everything, that's when Naked Pastor sort of came from underneath the rug and showed itself and started to get known. And that's actually what started getting me in trouble. But most people in my church didn't read my blog. They were like, why do I want to read your blog? I already have to listen to you once a week. But anyway, it's like,
we're sick of you.
But then when my cartoons started taking off and other people started hearing about it, and they started talking to my people about it and saying, what's going on with your pastor? And, writing letters to head office, and head office calling me and saying, hey, what's going on? Stuff like that. That's when I knew my time was up.
As you look at your art from that season to your art today, how would you compare it?
I think I would compare it to when I started, I was inside, fully on inside the system called the church, Christianity, the ministry, and all that. So I was really critiquing what was going on from the inside. And then as time moved on, you can see where my cartoons are becoming more and more marginal. And now I am fully on the outside now. Although I still feel like I'm a part of the game. Like, I'm still on the playing field, maybe streaking through the field or something as the Naked Pastor and annoying everybody, but I still feel like I'm in the game somehow. And so, at first it was harmless. It flew under the radar. I was naive. Nobody knew about it. But then when, it started getting popular, that's when it started getting me in trouble. And so now I feel like I'm more honest now than I was then too, because I can be,
which is also, a testament to the growth journey. You've become more and more fully yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And because what holds us back from becoming ourselves is, what is it? It's fear of being rejected, mostly, I think. I mean, there's the fear of the unknown, the fear of doubt, the fear of darkness, all the stuff that's inside of us. But another huge, overwhelming fear is, if I expose myself, I'm going to get hurt. And so I think that's one of the big inhibitors to our personal growth is fear of rejection or ridicule, and I've gotten used to that now. And it's just, I realize now that that's just a part of the package. I mean, you buy into that really. And so once you recognize that, then you have to take it.
I remember when I was in junior high, I had a social studies class, and the teacher offered extra credit every week if you would take a political cartoon and you would write a paper on it.
Oh, wow.
And so you could get extra credit every week if you did this. And so I was always the nerd in school. And I'm like, if I can get extra credit, I'm going to do it. So I would go to the newspaper, I would cut out these political cartoons, but I never understood them. I'm in junior high. And so I'd have to go to my dad and be like, can you explain what is this cartoon saying? And then he would explain. And so I would understand all sorts of complex issues of the day that most junior highers didn't, because of cartoons, right? Because they were communicating something that I was diving into. I look at your work today, and that's how I would say, you're doing that, not necessarily politically, although it does obviously correlate, but which a tremendous insight to the church, to theology, to God, to how it all plays out. And so it's interesting to hear you say you consider yourself an outsider, because when I look at your work, I see it as only someone who's been deeply on the inside could do the kind of work that you do, right? An outsider couldn't produce that. No. So I'm curious, how do you've moved your position clearly, yeah. but if someone were to say to you, David, they meet you on an airplane, hey, are you a Christian? How are you approaching that these days? How are you kind of packaging where you're located in your faith?
Well, I do get asked that quite a bit. Maybe not face to face, although I do once in a while, or on podcasts, or mostly online. The way I answer that now is, I've written a lot about this. Like I have a few things that I say, like I honor my roots, but I don't let them limit me. So that's one. So in other words, my roots are definitely in Christianity and in the church, but I'm not going to let that limit me. Another thing I say is my home's in Christianity, but I have cottages everywhere, meaning my home is in the Christian faith. My home is in the church. My church is my mother. The church is my mother, but I've moved out, and I have cottages everywhere. I'm comfortable talking about, or I would be comfortable talking with a Buddhist, an atheist, a Hindu, a Jew, anybody, anywhere. It's sure. Because the way I see growth, I used to see it as linear, where you moved on and left stuff behind. Then I saw it as stages, where you sort of go up and up and up, and you drop stuff and you look down on your previous life and all that kind of thing. Now I see it more as spatial, like rings on a tree. Nothing's rejected. Cool. Nothing's rejected. Everything's included. So I look back on my past and it's a part of who I am, but I'm growing outwardly, taking up more space and exploring, other ideas, other thoughts, other religions, other philosophies, and it's my own fault, because, I did grow up in a very evangelical. I was a fanatical evangelical. I was all in, all bets. I was all in, and so I still have my Bibles from when I was a teenager, all underlined in different colored ink and written in the margins and everything. And I went to Bible college. I went to seminary for Bible, like totally. But I started, questioning things, and I started exploring. So I started exploring Jewish thinkers and philosophers, Abraham Heschel, for example, and then I started reading about Islam and, Islamic mysticism and Rumi, etc., and then Hinduism and Buddhism and Zen, and then quantum physics, David Bohm, Carlo Rovelli, and, so on and so forth, like Krishnamurti, Thomas Merton, all this stuff all fed into and nourished my growth. And all these people are a part of the rings that make up who I am. And I can't say, oh, I'm more this than this, because I'm all of it. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe, but so when somebody says, are you Christian? I can say, like Gandhi did, yes, I'm Christian. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Hindu. I'm a Buddha. Like, you can be all those things, and because they are all a part of who I am. Just like Jung said, yeah, I may present myself as male, but I have an anima, a female aspect, and a female side to my personality. I might appear to you as an angel, but I also have a demon. I also have darkness in me, et cetera, right? So we're very complex, we're multi-layered, multi-ringed, and so this is a long answer to a short question. Are you a Christian? Yes, but and that would be my explanation is, yes, it's a part of, it's in my DNA for sure. And Christianity and the church is my birth family. But just like with my birth family, I moved out and I'm different now, but it's still my family.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the way I feel about Christianity and the church and Christians.
I like the way you've navigated the different, is it linear, is it stacked, progression, or is it the tree analogy? I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, because depending on the metaphor we use,
yeah,
and I think this can get, a lot of people in the deconstructing community can trip up on this, where you start looking back on not only previous versions of you, but then people who relate with previous versions of you. and you have this kind of like judgment of, oh, you haven't figured that out yet, or you haven't gotten past that yet. And you can kind of have this elitist sense, not that you're trying to, it's just that if you have that model of I've transgressed that, I've moved beyond that, right? Then you look at someone who you would say hasn't done that, and you can start to go, why haven't you transgressed that? Whereas the tree is just like, no, give it time. These rings will keep growing if the tree is healthy.
Language is so important, and it's really hard to find words to describe this without sounding elitist or arrogant, or because I often get accused of that. Oh, who do you think you are? And all I'm saying is that even growth, I've grown. Even that is packed with undertones, right? So, there's a lot of philosophers, for example, Krishnamurti, is it even possible to grow and psychologically change? Is that even a possibility? Or do we become more of who we are? Is that the growth? Is awareness, attention to what is, rather than what we hope to be or wish to be or dream to be or fantasize being, So yeah, language is very important. And I always try my best to be cautious about, describing my journey, because, one of my books that came out several years ago called Questions Are the Answer. It got some critical reviews because people thought I was making myself sound better than them, that I had moved beyond Christianity and I was kind of elevating myself as somebody who'd progressed, when that's not what I wanted to communicate at all, but it's like you say, it's really hard to find the words and find appropriate language. And I think that's why deconstruction, everybody's throwing that word around now, but deconstruction is more of removing material rather than adding material. And I think that's, for me, an important, I try to keep that metaphor, that analogy in my mind, that, if you've ever had a garden or planted anything, like let's say a tomato plant seed, you plant it and there's nothing you can do to make that seed grow any faster except remove barriers and provide nutrition. Like you can't pull on the seed, you can't break the seed open. Once it sprouts, you can't pull that sprout. And once you see a little bud, you can't pull that bud to make the tomato come out. Like you just have to let it be, but you provide nutrition, you remove rocks and weeds, and you protect it from birds and deer and all that kind of thing. But you just provide an environment, and the tomato plant will grow. And that's, I feel, the best analogy that I can find right now to describe growth for people that isn't implicitly judgmental of other people, is that you're removing barriers and you're just providing nutrition, to that. There's nothing inherently great or heroic about that tomato plant. It's just, you're removing barriers and providing the nutrition it needs for growth.
Well, it's most simple. You're creating a healthy environment for it to grow.
Yeah.
A safe, healthy environment without the things that would limit it, to let it fully be what it could be.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't we all want that? Wouldn't we all want that environment where we can fully grow, fully be safe? We don't have the barriers that are stopping us. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful picture to say we would hope everybody would experience that.
We hope. Yeah. We would hope. I don't think everybody does, though.
Yeah.
I've seen it with my own eyes, where there's people who, even friends of mine, who like began deconstructing. It was a part of their growth and everything, and it became too scary for them, and they reverted back to an earlier, like, not stage, but an earlier phase, let's say, of their faith, because they didn't want to face that kind of terror of doubt and fear and the potential wrath of God and all this kind of thing. And so there are people who aren't prepared or willing or have the tools to fully continue the journey of personal growth. It's terrifying. It's why a lot of people don't want to go to therapy. They intuitively know they're going to have to face some demons, and there's a lot of people who just refuse to do that.
Yeah. Well, it is scary. It's scary ideologically, and it's scary relationally, because you don't know what you're going to lose. You don't know what you're going to be left with. And
Right.
I think a lot of it's based on your personality. I think some people are more wired to kind of go into that, and the change isn't as scary, where I think for other people, your personality, that is such a scary idea of losing the things that you've come to love, that even if you know, or could intellectually consent to the idea that these things are holding you back, you still think, well, yeah, but these things make me feel comfortable and okay. And, and there's security in it. And it is a tricky conundrum when you're trying to help others fully thrive in, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people who, even though they feel the church for them is unhealthy in many ways, they still go because they're not willing to give up the fellowship or whatever. Understandable. Totally understandable. I think that's the number one pain point for most people when they leave the church, is the loneliness and the, missing the community.
Yeah.
So I get it. I really do. I get it. But they also are like saying, thus far, no further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, when you logically say it like that, I think people will be like, well, this is a bad trade, but it's not a logical decision. It's an emotional decision that gets made, of this feels too scary, or this doesn't, I just don't like the idea of this. I want to go back to something you said, because I think it ties into all this. You talked about, you don't want to let the roots that you had limit you. How do you see that? Like, let's play on that image a little bit. How do you see people allowing the roots that they have limit them from the growth that could happen?
Well, it happened a lot in my life where, I'll just tell you a story. When I was first in the ministry, I was a young man, in my mid-20s. And, I was just a baby, for crying out loud. What did I know?
I think the same thing about my 20s. I'm like, I preached some sermons I had no business preaching.
You were in the ministry?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a lead pastor up until 2020. So that's why a lot of your journey and I'm not a full-time artist, but a lot of our journeys are similar.
Everybody's an artist in my opinion.
Okay, I'll take it.
But we all have creative. Yeah, well, cool. So I was in the ministry, Presbyterian, fully ordained, the whole bit. I had a church. I had 3 churches at the same time out in the country. And I had started deconstructing in a very powerful way, like questioning everything. And so I was starting to do my research, right? Like I said, I was starting to study Jewish philosophers, Christian philosophers and mystics, and then, Hindu, Buddhists, and atheists, science, blah, blah, blah. And I was very nervous about this because it was verboten, in my circles, to read outside of, your Christian faith. And
in my circle, you couldn't even read Rob Bell without getting flack.
Oh.
I mean, and I would say that's our same circle, friends. But it was like, no, you can't go that far.
Yeah, so I would sneak to it. There was a university about half an hour down the road, and I would go there and hang out in the library once in a week and I would read abstracts and religious journals and philosophy and all this kind of stuff. And I would hide in a corner. I would hide in a corner with my back to everybody and, secretly hiding away, reading Buddhism and Krishnamurti and Thomas Merton, his Asian journal, and, all this stuff, science, philosophy, everything. And one day I felt a tap on my shoulder, and another local pastor was like, "What are you reading that crap for?" He says, "We have enough stuff to read in Christianity. Like, you don't need to be reading that crap. And it's counterfeit anyway, And I was totally embarrassed. I was like 25, totally ashamed, and, put it away and drove home. And that's what I'm talking about, is I was trying to move beyond my roots, and I was being chastised for it and shamed, for it. And so that can happen in all kinds of arenas. I remember another time I was working for a ministry, and I was pretty new, and actually I was brand new, and somebody was picking me up from the airport or something, and who also worked for the ministry, and they were playing U2 on the radio. And I said, "Oh man, you like U2?" Because I liked U2. You like U2? And he goes, "Oh no, man, that was an accident. I must have accidentally pressed the wrong button." And he's going, totally covering his ass. I was like, "Dude, it's okay. Like, I like U2. It's okay." Because he was newer than me, and he was afraid he was going to get found out. And U2, man, come on. And all that kind of stuff, where exploring beyond the boundaries of like that, every self-discovery or growth or adventure or spirit journey, or whatever you want to call it, always requires leaving the camp and going out into the wilderness somehow and discovering something, either your true self or your spirit animal, or meet your ancestors, or I don't know what, but you have to go out of the camp. You have to leave the camp. That doesn't mean you're going to divorce your camp or reject your camp. It just means you're going to discover more of who you are, right? So and there's another thing I say too. I wouldn't be who I am now unless I was who I was then. So that is all a part of my journey. Like, I wouldn't be who I am now unless I was that conservative evangelical fanatic when I was a teenager, So it's like nothing gets rejected, everything gets used somehow, and that's how I see my journey. Yeah, and that's how I respect my roots. Because what I do see, though, is a lot of people who are deconstructing are embarrassed by their roots, ashamed, repulsed. They want to reject it and deny it, dismiss it, hide it, forget it. Whereas I wonder if a healthier way would be to somehow integrate that, figure out how that was somehow fuel for your journey to get you to where you are right now.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your art, and there's so many questions I have about this, but we'll figure out a few of them to go. I'm curious because a lot of people know you from your art. That's the public persona they get. But from your point of view, what is the stuff that you make that you're the most proud of? That maybe isn't what's most popular, it isn't what gets you the most traction, but the things that you create that you think, this is really good. This is some of my best stuff. What is that from your point of view?
A family. That's cheesy, but yeah. No, I have a wonderful family, my wife and 3 kids. So, but that's not my work. What what I like most, I think, and this is what I endeavor to do, is like I have thousands of cartoons, right? I've been cartooning since 2006, almost a cartoon every day, a new cartoon every day. Thousands of cartoons, over 5,000 cartoons. My favorite ones, and I think the ones that are the most popular even, are the ones that don't have words. And I wonder if it's because it's just a visual impact, or if it's more universal, no translation required.
Yeah.
And maybe also because I had to put more time into creating it without words, because words can alleviate a lot of work. You know what I mean? So, so like my cartoon Overturning, where Jesus is flipping the tables, there's no words. It's a very dramatic cartoon. It kind of looks like a matrixy kind of a image. Puzzle of Love, where Jesus and different colored sheep are sitting around a puzzle shaped like a heart. They're making the puzzle, and they've got chips and dip and Coke and all that kind of stuff, popcorn. Eraser, where there's a bunch of people with big fat pencils drawing lines, and then Jesus has his upside down erasing the lines.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, so cartoons like that have no words, I think I'm the most proud of, and I aspire to make more of those. It's so hard though. It's such a challenge. But I think those are the ones I'm most proud of. Yeah.
Is your goal to create a cartoon every day?
Yeah.
So what is that? I mean, just the creative weight of that seems pretty massive. How do you go about, all right, today's a new day, what's the new cartoon?
Well, okay, so my wife and I are busy for the next few days. So yesterday, she's working. She's a full-time nurse. She's a palliative care nurse. And we always joke, she helps people die, and I try to help people live. But I thought I'm going to have my cartoons all posted and everything ready to go, so that, you know, we can get up in the morning, have our coffee, relax. I don't have to worry about anything, and we can do our thing. And so yesterday I came up with like 3 or 4 original cartoons, and I drew them all yesterday. and I painted a painting as well. So, like, you know, I don't know if you saw the painting, but it's fuck your algorithm. I mean, you can delete that if you want, but but yeah, I get up in the morning, and if I don't have a cartoon ready, I just get in that space and wait for inspiration to come, and then draw it, you know. And sometimes, you know, when I'm running or whatever, I work out quite a bit. So like when I go for a run, often ideas will come to me, and I will jot down the idea so that the morning of I can draw the idea, right? So my mind's constantly coming up with images and ideas and all that kind of thing. It's like just a factory of ideas and creativity. Like I admit I'm a little bit prolific when it comes to that kind of thing. So I just write it down, and then when the day comes, I draw it. But
I've totally found
it's fun though for me.
Well, you can tell you enjoy it.
It's like, oh my God, that's a heavy burden. That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of work. But for me, like this, I just love doing it. Right? It's my passion. So.
You know, I'm not drawing cartoons, but I try to write and produce, you know, podcasts and content and different things.
Yeah.
And I have found going on a walk is so helpful for my mind to start organizing, and ideas will come to me, or things will click into place of like, oh, that would be amazing to explore that idea and connect that to that. And It is so interesting how moving your body does something in your brain to help, those ideas. And so I always tell people, like, if you're stuck with writer's block, move away from your desk, go for a walk. Like, you got to get out and let your body move.
Yeah. And like when I live in a beautiful spot here. I live on the river here. So,
oh man, that's awesome.
And my road just goes all up and down the river. So when I go for a run, I don't wear any earphones or phones or anything. It's just the wind and the birds and it could be raining. I love running in the rain, like whatever weather, snow, ice, which you probably are not familiar with where you are.
We've heard of it before, David.
Arizona. My God, I love heat, but what the hell am I doing here in Canada? I don't know. Well, I know why. It's safer here. But aside from all that,
I think a lot of listeners are envying you right now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. So when I run, I'm totally unplugged, and just ideas just come rolling in, And I think if you do that, if you unplug from everything and just allow your mind to go, it'll come up with some ideas, and it always works for me. Like when I'm in my car, I can come up with ideas, but I can't have my music on. I have to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then the ideas just roll in, Yeah.
So you said earlier, everybody's an artist. I can imagine quite a few people listening to this would put themselves in the aspiring artist camp and hear you talk about how much you're producing and are fans of your work and go, wow, I would love to be more of an artist of, whatever it is they're producing. What's your encouragement to that person who maybe is trying to produce something, doesn't know how to let that fully be a part of them? How have you found, it helpful to embrace that part of you and let that part of you fully come out?
So maybe I'll rephrase that. Everybody's an artist, but everybody's creative in some way. Everybody's creative in some way. Don't call yourself an artist. That comes with a lot of packaging, a lot of baggage there. But everybody's creative in some way. It could be painting or drawing or poetry or music or baking, cooking, forming groups, communities, dancing. There's tons of ways to be creative. I have a friend who she's a baker and like she is amazing. Like I think she's an artist, and so everybody's creative in some way. And so, but if you want to enter, dive into some form of creativity or art, like let's say painting or whatever, or maybe you want to draw cartoons, just start. Like I just started. I mean, my earliest cartoons suck, but I was learning, I could paint, I could sell a watercolor, I could draw pictures, but cartoons, it comes with its own, philosophy. Like you have to learn a lot. I've learned a lot over the years about how to cartoon, but it's not about skill. For example, like I did a workshop recently in Toronto where some people, I would like cartoon, but I can't draw. And I like, well, here, look at this person. She's a famous cartoonist. She's published in the New Yorker, which for me is the benchmark, gold standard. Her name's Liana Fink. And it looks like a little kid drawing with its wrong hand. Her cartoon. So I'm serious. I'm not joking. Like she can paint. She's shown her paintings before, but she gave that up for cartooning. And it really literally looks like a child's drawing with the wrong hand. And in terms of, artistic excellence, like a lot of people might be very judgmental. I get that all the time too. My 4-year-old could draw better than that. Somebody wrote recently one of my cartoons, but that's not the point. That's not the point. You're doing something else, right? So whatever your creativity is, just do you. Draw what you want to draw, paint what you want to paint, write what you want to write, sing what you want to sing, whatever it is, and break the mold. Don't follow. You might want to follow some rules and everything to learn a little bit of skill, but like break the rules and just play and see what happens. That's what I recommend, is just use your artistic imagination and just play and see what happens.
You mentioned something in that answer. You said you have to be willing to, make some bad stuff. And you look early on in some of your work and you're like, it wasn't very good. I think that is so profound. And that is the thing that I think keeps more people from trying it, is you dip your toe in it, you play, and then you go, it's not really good. And so then you give up rather than going, okay, how do I build on that? How do I learn from that? And I'll even take just this podcast. So this is going to be episode 61 of this podcast.
Wow.
I looked at some of the early episodes of this and they're terrible. I mean, the camera's bad. The audio's bad. My interviewing wasn't very good. It's awkward. I mean, just like I look and I cringe. And just this last Sunday, I was preaching at a church and I had someone tell me, they're like, hey, I just listened to this episode, and they referenced it was like episode 3, and I knew it was episode 3, and I'm like, why are you listening to that episode? And they said, I went back from the beginning, and I'm going to listen to all of them. And I felt the need to apologize to them, like, I'm so sorry, those early ones aren't good. It took me a while to figure out what I do, and I feel like every episode I'm getting better. I'm learning new things. But it's that willingness. I think you have to be willing to either look foolish or look silly, or just to laugh at yourself and like, yeah, that isn't the greatest, but that, unless you're willing to go through that discomfort, you never get to build on your skills or to enhance it or to grow. And so it's encouraging to me to hear you say, you look back on some of your stuff and like, yeah, that's not the greatest, because I think that is what I know. And that's what I think every single person who creates anything knows. Your early stuff is a little bit rough.
Well, and it's sort of an analogy to life, right? Like I said earlier, I wouldn't be the cartoonist I am now unless I drew those. It's a part of my story, right? That's how I got here.
That's how you got here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's so good. All right, I'm trying to think of what questions. I have more questions than we have time.
Jeremy, like I was cartooning, and people started sharing it because there's something about a cartoon, preferably one frame with as few words as possible, simply drawn. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And if I can convey 1,000 words in one picture, people are going to see it and they're going to be more willing to share it or whatever. And that's what started Naked Pastor to take off, like a couple of years into my Naked Pastor blog. And then one day I drew a cartoon that went viral and propelled me into the next level, like it, you never know. I didn't draw it real, this is going to make it work for me. I never knew. I didn't know. I never knew. Yeah. I still don't. I still haven't figured out, this is going to kill it. I just don't know. It's hit or miss. And so just keep doing what you do and you never know what's going to happen. Like, if you love it though, like that painting I did yesterday, Fuck Your Algorithm, I did that for me because that's how I'm feeling right now. And I thought, well, I'm going to draw it, and you know what? I might as well share it, see what happens. Like, I don't care if somebody buys it or not, but I had to paint it for me. And that's basically my approach to everything I do, my cartoons and everything. I'm doing it for me. And if you benefit from it, then great. That's cream on the top, right?
Yeah.
Or cherry, whatever. Cream or cherry.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was reading through some of your blog posts as I was getting ready for this interview, and you had one about Mark Driscoll that I really liked because Mark Driscoll's in my neighborhood now. And yeah, so this is an ongoing an ongoing deal that, is I hear about regularly. You had a couple things that I thought were so good in that. You said theology is our creation. It is a reflection of our drives and desires. Then, not satisfied to only be the product of our drives and desires, it also becomes the producer of them, which I thought was so interesting. And then you kind of capture that whole thing with this phrase. You say, we are both the root and fruit. Now, in Driscoll's case, and I would say in many others, the theology is unbelievably abusive to people and to what it produces. And many of us have watched that. There's a great podcast called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, if you're curious on Driscoll in particular, that literally documents in incredible detail the abusiveness of this. I'm curious, what have you found as you've grown, as you've journeyed beyond, as you've added rings to your tree? Right. How do we foster a really healthy theology that allows us to grow and allows those around us to thrive as well?
Yeah. So I still believe that what I wrote back then. And that is, we don't believe against our will. Like, we believe what we want to believe. And one of my most controversial cartoons is the Bible plus your interpretation equals your interpretation. And because that's all we have, right, is our interpretation of the Bible. When somebody says, but the Bible says, but you go, whoa, wait. It's what you say the Bible says. Mm-hmm. You got to keep that clear, because when your what the Bible says and his what the Bible says are two totally different things. So it just comes down to interpretation, and we only believe what we want to believe. Nobody's believing against their will. And so I believe that people whose theology is hateful and abusive is because their heart is hateful and abusive. That's a harsh thing to say, but I really do believe that people believe what justifies and affirms their heart. So somebody else, I go to this church and I agree everything the pastor says. Well, it's because you're believing everything the pastor says. He doesn't believe everything you like. It's a, what do you call that when the host and the parasite, a symbiotic relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. And so what I'm saying these days is that, is it possible to, instead of having a hermeneutic of like the way we interpret the text, the way we interpret the Bible or whatever, instead of it being by faith you are saved, or, through faith, or, purity, or, whatever, what if it was a hermeneutic of love? Can we read the Bible with love? Like if I have an empathetic heart, a loving heart, I care for people, I care for the marginalized and the persecuted and the abused. If I care for them, then I'm going to, and I care for the Bible, I'm going to find affirmation for my empathy in the Bible.
Right.
And if I want to, I don't need to, but if I want to, I can find a lot of passages that would encourage me to care for the poor, for example. Not just, care. So, but if I have a hateful heart, a greedy heart, an exclusivist heart that feels that you're poor because you deserve it, or you don't work hard enough, or you just want to suck off the system, or, whatever, then your theology is going to reflect that. You're going to find a theology that is abusive towards the poor. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And then it becomes cyclical. The more if I have a hateful heart towards the poor, suspicious, what are they spending the money I give them on, kind of attitude, I'm going to find scripture that endorses that suspicion, and then it's going to make me more suspicious because it's got religious backing.
Yeah.
And that fuels it, and that becomes greater, and my heart becomes even more hateful, and I find even more hateful passages till you get to the point where you feel it's totally legitimate to wipe out an entire people. So that's what I mean by, we're not only the root, we're also the fruit. We're the whole package.
Yeah.
And so if I want to live a life of justice and love and empathy and caring and generosity and all that, then my heart has to be that first. It's all to be looking for. All comes down to the human heart. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. All right, we're gonna move to some questions that I ask each guest, and we get to compare your answers with everybody else's answers. We'll start with a wine question. If I were to ask you, David, what is, if you think about one moment that you think this was enjoying wine at its fullest, so either the best glass you can remember, the moment that you thought this is just the best wine could be. Is there a story that comes to mind? Is there a bottle that comes to mind? Is it a setting? Is it who you're with? Does anything come to your mind when I say, what's the best experience you've ever had with wine?
I do have a story.
Let's hear it.
Story. So my neighbor, she's an elderly woman, but she has a family, and they come to visit and everything. So I'm friends with them all, and they've all moved on and everything. Well, one of them is quite successful and has quite a successful business, and he loves wine, a good whiskey, as do I, and a good cigar, as do I. Anyway, one day he had us over, Lisa and I, my wife Lisa and I, and he had some nice wines there. And he said his personal sommelier,
Wow.
He lives in Toronto, but he was visiting here in St. John, New Brunswick. And his personal sommelier recommended that he go to this local liquor store and buy these bottles because they were cheaper here than they are in Toronto. And so he had a few of these bottles out, and one was $600, and so on and so forth. I'm talking expensive,
Wow. Yeah.
expensive bottle. Well, to me, expensive. And in my mind, I'd been drinking wine already before this, for years. I love a good red. And he was like, yeah, this one's $600. Let's try this one first. And I'm going, he said, yeah, I got it for $600. It's like $800 in Toronto. And I'm going, it can't be.
What a deal.
No, my thinking was, it can't be that good. It can't be $600 better, or it can't be $580 better than a $20 bottle. You know what I mean? So, and I took a sip, and I got tears in my eyes. I almost cried.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. I said, I will never taste wine this good again.
It ruined you forever.
It was like a whole other drink. It was like a whole other world. And I had never experienced that in my life. So it sort of opened up a door, or opened up, a cavern underneath my feet, kind of thing. But just to know that there's really excellent wine out there is, yeah.
That's amazing. I'm envious of that experience. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, so we drank a few bottles of wine that night. It was just wonderful, and a good Cuban, which you guys can't get down there, but
I think we can now. But yeah, we couldn't get it for a while.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'm more of a pipe guy these days, so I haven't done as many cigars as I used to. But
yeah, I don't smoke cigars much, but it was a really nice Monte Cristo, and yeah, really good.
Sounds delightful.
Mm.
All right, which member of church history would you trust to pick out a bottle of wine for you, and who would you not trust, and why?
Wow. I never thought of church history in terms of wine drinkers.
Well, there you go. Welcome to Cabernet and Pray.
Now, certainly for beer, probably Martin Luther, but wine. Who drank wine?
They don't have to have drank wine, but if you were letting someone pick a bottle for you today, who would you trust? So think about your views of that person and the way they would pick a bottle for you.
I love this question. Really got my mind rolling. Meister Eckhart.
Oh, okay.
The mystic, the German mystic. Although Germany isn't known for its great wines, but
Germany's got some great Rieslings.
Yeah, but I'm not much of a white guy. Oh, I am a white guy, but not much of a white.
You're a pretty white guy, David.
I'm very white. Look at me. Now, Teilhard de Chardin, maybe he was French. I bet he could come up with a good bottle of wine.
You're not going to go wrong choosing a Frenchman.
No, I'm going to go with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you not trusting to pick a bottle for you?
Karl Barth. The president of Presbyterian College at McGill University, where I went and got my MDiv equivalent, he studied under Karl Barth. He was a Calvin scholar, and he studied under Karl Barth, and would go to Germany and everything. And he told some stories, man. It was just incredible, because I loved Karl Barth as well. And he said after classes, Karl Barth would meet with all of his students in the local pub kind of place, and they would all order something. He would order a glass of wine and set it down on the table, and they would have their theological discussions. And then when they were all done and ready to go home, Karl Barth would just take the glass of wine and knock it back.
What?
In one gulp, and then he would go home. It's like, that's not how you drink a glass of wine, but that's how Karl Barth did it.
Wow, that's sacrilege.
Yeah.
Man, that's intense. I've never heard that story. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. What is something you used to believe that it turned out later you were wrong about?
Hell. That's an easy one. But I'll tell you what started my deconstruction, though. I was graduating from seminary. It was the day of my graduation. And I suddenly realized I wasn't sure about the inspiration of Scripture. And that for me was absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating. And that's what really started the deconstruction. I compare it to somebody planting corrupt code in my theological brain, and it just doing its work over the decades, corrupting my theological files. So, yeah.
I like it. What do you see as the main issues? And I'm asking you this as a Canadian. So what do you see as the main issues facing Christianity in America today?
Well, authoritarianism, fascism, control, power. I think that's the I think that's the root of a lot of, and I'm reading a lot of feminist scholars these days. I'm doing a deep dive into feminism, and there's tons of books, tons of very wise, intelligent feminist writers, women. And I'm beginning to understand that white male supremacy, the patriarchy, is at the root of a lot of our problems.
Yeah.
Not just US, but everywhere in the world. And so I'm, overturning the patriarchy, I think is it's not something that will be, I don't know if it'll be something that will be accomplished, but it's a day-to-day battle for sure. And so that's what I think is the root of a lot of our problems, is the patriarchy. To be honest with you, I'm just going to lay that out there. I really do think the patriarchy is at the root of a lot of our problems.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you?
I do, absolutely.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, a little bit. Because a lot of people resort to common things like sin or pornography.
Not on this podcast, David.
Or greed, or ambition, or all this. But I really do think that at the root of all of this stuff, and a lot of problems that America's facing, and that there's some people that want to see Canada face, is the patriarchy, white male supremacy in particular. So I'm glad to hear that from you, though.
I just did a video the other day where I was talking about the comparisons of purity culture and Christian nationalism, and I think one of the themes that brings them together is patriarchy. So you have this underlying foundation in both of those of the patriarchy, and so I was making the point in that video of this one, kind of foundational tenet that has been laid down for generations is producing all of these other things, producing purity culture, producing Christian nationalism, all these things. And so until we pull that weed out, we're going to keep getting these bizarre expressions of what it means to follow God in different ways. And I think absolutely we've got to name it. Patriarchy is not remotely what Jesus ever intended. It is not remotely what causes people to thrive. And so I'm in 100% agreement with you that patriarchy is a massive issue.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's a fascinating journey. And, here I am, a white male, straight guy sitting in his armchair saying so. But, I really do think that that's at the root of a lot of what's going on. All the problems right now with the marginalization of the poor and the brown people, black people, women, attacks against their bodies and their bodily autonomy, and all the stuff is rooted in this sort of a patriarchy that has a religious flavor to it, and that's because it's evident in many religions anyway. So I'm doing my reading and my research and having conversations and doing my best to challenge that. Yeah.
Well, and I think for a lot of us, like I'll, speak for myself. I grew up with a theology that supported patriarchy, to be quite honest, and, grew up being told, I'm supposed to be the head of my household, and that's what faithfulness looks like for me. So even going into my marriage thinking that's what I have to do to be a good Christian. And then at some point, along the way going, this feels funky and this doesn't really make sense to me, and starting to poke holes in it, and then getting to the point where it's like, this is bogus. This is something else. But, I was definitely raised with that theology. That was the evangelicalism. And it goes back to what you're saying is, we choose the theology that supports what we want to be. And I think that was the culture I was raised in. Like, it wanted to be patriarchal, so it created a theology that supports it.
I was just going to say the same thing. Like, that goes to my point about we choose a theology that affirms. So men want control, and we have a religion that supports that. You can find enough biblical passages to support that. And indeed, Prop 25, etc. It's very Handmaid's Tale. It's all very religious, and it comes from the patriarchal heart, right? It's found and formed an ideology, a religion of theology that allows it to perpetuate, and get stronger.
What is something blowing your mind right now? Something you're learning?
What's blowing my mind right now is I feel like this is kind of personal, but I feel like I'm in a kind of a transition phase, and I feel like I'm in an incubator for my next level or next phase or whatever, and it's very disconcerting. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to prepare for it. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of confused. But I feel like that painting I did yesterday, Fuck Your Algorithm, has something to do with this kind of I don't know, my artistic expression transforming a little bit. So it's kind of like the child in the birth canal. It's very compressed and tight and confusing and dark, and there's no oxygen, and you don't know what's coming because you've never been there, and it feels like that, and so it's kind of blowing my mind right now because I've been in situations like this before, but and I'm okay. I'm kind of at peace with it, but it's kind of also I'm realizing it's blowing my mind because I need to somehow let this sink into my heart and take the next step somehow, but I don't know how yet. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
What an answer to that question. That's exciting.
That's a big one. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. What's a problem that you're trying to solve?
That one.
Okay.
That's my problem.
What is it?
So and I don't even know what the problem is, but there is another problem though. How can I be free to be creative and be myself and continue doing what I do and still earn a living?
I feel you deeply on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I want to be authentic and real. But it's like, so for example, I have an online community called The Lasting Supper. And so every once in a while I promote it. And I always feel really yucky when I do. But, it's typical of artists not to feel comfortable promoting their work or their, whatever. But I that's a problem for me, is how do I make art, make a community, make any kind of a product, write a book, paint a painting, whatever, and sell it so that I can feed myself and my family. That's a problem. So
when I was a lead pastor, I made a great salary, and I had benefits for my family, and paychecks rolled in, and it was great. And then you leave that and you start to try to pursue what God's laying on your heart, and you're like, how do I feed these 5 kids of mine?
You have 5 kids?
I do. And they want meals 3 times a day, David. Is that ridiculous or what?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
I come from a family of 5 kids. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and we have 3 kids. So how can I ask you how you earn a living now?
So it's a little bit of everything. So I have an online community as well. It's called Rebuilding Faith, that is mainly people that support my work and are interested in this, and we go deeper, throughout the week. So what you're saying about your online community, I completely feel that. It feels weird, but I've learned there are people that, are able to support and want to, and that helps.
Yep.
I do speaking regularly, so I speak regularly at other churches, and that, provides some income as well, and then do some writing and some other projects. But it's I've nowhere come near what my salary was that I left. And so my goal is like, can I even get in the ballpark where I used to be? And yeah, it's been, it's one of those, and I just appreciate your honesty there, because I think a lot of people feel this of like, when you play by the rules, things make sense and things are easier in that regard. Like, I never worried about a paycheck. I never, I got paid very well in ministry and as an exec pastor at a megachurch, and then as a lead pastor at a megachurch, got paid very well. And these days I don't get that salary. And so I feel like I'm more me, I'm more alive, I'm more faithful to what Jesus has invited me to be. And it has never been harder to pay the bills than it is right now. And both of those are true. And that's so I resonate with everything you said and second it.
Good on you, man. Yeah. I admire that. I admire people that do that. And, I know the challenge. I get the hard work, it's tough. So, I'm constantly, like, I have a nakedpastor.com where I sell all my prints and my originals and, everything. And then I have my online community, The Lasting Supper, and then I have books, and then I do speaking gigs, although I can't go to the States right now because of things. And then, I have several streams of income, but that's the key, is that I'm happy and we're happy and we're able to pay the bills and feed ourselves and etc. So it's worth it. I have taken risks in my life and proven to myself that somehow it's worked for me. When I've taken a leap of faith, let's say, that the ground has risen up to meet me, and so far it's proven to be true. Now I'm very reluctant to say that happens for everybody.
Sure.
But it's happened for me, and so I know for a lot of people out there, try it, take the risk if you dare, and see what happens. But at the same time, like, you've been doing this for years, I've been doing this for years too. Like, I left the ministry in 2010. We're talking 15 years later, and I just feel like, okay, I'm finding I can live here. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But it's worth it if you're free, right?
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful thing to kind of wrap up on, because I think this is the reality. We can talk about these ideas and, hey, deconstruct your faith and pursue this. And it's like, oh, that's great. The reality is it might literally cost you something that you may never get back. And so I don't necessarily give a blanket endorsement on this for people if you're not ready for it. You have to be ready to go on the journey, knowing you may absolutely have loss. And the point you made of, it's worth it. You have to be there. You have to have that sense of, even if I don't replace that, or I never get that back, what I get in exchange is worth it. And that's how I feel. Is, I'm 5 years into that for me. So you're 10 years further into that transition than I am. But I would say this year, like recently, is the first time I even feel encouraged, like I'm going in the right direction. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Everything made sense. Now it doesn't. And I got to figure things out.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like some of those pieces are starting to, coalesce together. And so I think everybody who goes on this journey gets some version of that. Now, it might be different for them depending on obviously how you pay the bills and what your, career is, but you're going to lose something. You're going to lose, something financial, community, definitely.
Yep.
And a sense of security and a sense of, this makes sense and I fit, and and yet we'll just wrap it back up on this. And yet you and I would both agree it's worth it.
It's worth it for sure. Like, my favorite story, biblical story, comes from the Hebrew Bible. Of at least back in Egypt, we had leeks and onions.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Like,
it wasn't so
out of
bad.
the wilderness, I'm on my way to the land flowing with milk and honey.
Yeah.
But my God, it's hard. Like, and every once in a while there's a windfall, like quail or manna or the parting of the Red Sea, or every once in a while. But, you know, most of the time it's plodding through hot sand. And every once in a while it's like, man, at least back then we had leeks and onions. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like, that's the story of my life, and I keep holding out for the land flowing with milk and honey, whatever that looks like. You know, I can smell it in the air from here. I'm not quite there, but I can smell it in the air. Yeah.
That's beautiful. All right, David, anything else I haven't asked you in our time together that we cannot wrap up this episode without addressing?
Well, if people want to find me, just go to nakedpastor.com. I think even though I'm finding Instagram incredibly frustrating these days, that's where I really pay a lot of attention to moderating the comments, and I do a lot of deleting and blocking there. So it's quite safe there on Instagram. Follow me there. And I always answer people when they email or message me. I'm really good at that. And yeah, thanks for having me on your show. And yeah, I hope everybody out there has a great life. And
Well,
good morning.
I just want to say, number one, thank you for taking time with us today and doing some early afternoon day drinking for us.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Number two, thank you for modeling this well, for going into the wilderness, for being an example of someone who's willing to do it, who's willing to be fully you, who's willing to add rings to the tree and go wherever that takes you, even when, you know, you've been honest enough with us of the discomfort and all of that. We need examples. We need people that will say, yeah, I've done it. Here's what it is. And you've given a gift to all of us. And if you haven't checked out David's cartoons and his work, you are missing out. Huge plug. These are incredible ways to think creatively about our faith. And again, like I referenced earlier, David is able to create in a cartoon so much theology, so much thought, so much of like, oh yeah, that really is what it's about. And oftentimes without words. And that's the testament to your gift and to your talent and to the journey you've been on. So thank you for all of that. And thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's been great. I've enjoyed our conversation and the wine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, hope you enjoyed this episode of Cabernet and Pray. We will see you on the next one.